Alrighty guys, welcome back to the Muzzle Broke channel. And today we're going over how to clean any AK or AK variant. And today we're cleaning my RPK. So first step, we got to field strip this weapon. First thing we're going to do is eject the mag, set that to the side. Going to pull that bolt to the rear. Make sure there's nothing in the chamber. From this point, we're going to go ahead and push that recoil spring assembly in, pull that dust cover up and out. We're going to grab our recoil spring assembly, push it down, up and out. Next, we're going to grab our bolt carrier group, charge that to the rear, and that should come up and out. We're going to flip our bolt carrier over. We're going to push this bolt and spin it counterclockwise out so that these two pieces can pull out and separate. The last little part of the field strip is to go ahead and flip this pin up so that our gas tube can pop out of the weapon system. And at this point, our AK or AK variant is completely field stripped. Also, curious to hear from you. Let me know down in the comments, what's your favorite AK or AK variant? Because I really love this RPK. So we have our mag, we have our receiver, we have our dust cover, our recoil spring assembly, we got our gas tube, we got our bolt carrier, and we got our bolt. As you can see, this is a little bit dirty already. So what I usually like to do is grab a rag and just kind of wipe all of these pieces down real quick individually and get some of that overt dirt and grime off of them. When we're moving to the receiver, I really do try and pay attention to these pieces close to the barrel here. It's super hard to get in here where that gas tube actuates and the gas tube itself, but it's always worth trying to get some of that dirt out of there. Same thing with this little port towards the front of the weapon system as well. It's kind of hard to get in there, but it's worth a shot. And just kind of wiping down the rest of the receiver there as well. What I usually like to do at this point is kind of set the base gun and the receiver aside and then tackle all these small pieces just to get this out of the way. So as far as a gun cleaner, I love just this traditional Hops 9 bore cleaner. It's pretty much all I've ever used, but it's always done me solid. It's pretty much what I use for all my firearms, and it works very well for me, and it's pretty inexpensive. So all I really do for these small pieces is I grab that bore cleaner and some Q-tips and really just start getting after it. Contrary to popular belief, AKs do need to be cleaned to function properly, so these are very important steps. Not everyone will clean their mags, but I usually do like to run at least one Q-tip around the feed lips just to make sure everything's kind of lubed up. No dirt or grime in there that's going to give me any jams while I'm at the range. Going to go ahead and grab our bolt next and just kind of, again, taking a Q-tip, getting into all these nooks and crannies of the bolt. I do sometimes like to use a wire brush just to get into some of these deeper little crannies that the Q-tips doesn't fit. Wire brush isn't going to be an absolute requirement for this, but I do like it. But I do like it just to make sure I'm getting every little piece of dirt out. All right, so I'm pretty happy with that bolt. Going to set that aside and grab our bolt carrier. One piece on the bolt carrier that I will note is this, like the head of this piston gets super dirty. As you can see, there's quite a bit of stuff caked on there. So I'm going to try and crack at that a little bit with the wire brush and some gun cleaner before I move on to the rest of the bolt. Now, this RPK build is actually a Romanian parts kit build. So this is, I think, actually a 1970 or 1971 parts kits. So to be honest, some of this is probably caked on from not me, which is, you know, it is what it is. But just trying to get some of that off. Working our way back on the piston, just making sure we get in all these nooks and crannies. This piston obviously is involved in the gas system, so it can get pretty dirty. So it's pretty important to clean it off and make sure we're not caking up gunpowder or residue. So moving our way back on the bolt, just wiping everything down, making sure we're getting all these little pieces of dirt and grime out of this gun. It's especially important to pay attention to these kind of nooks and crannies over here where that bolt sits, because you can get some kind of parts hang up there if we have any buildup. So making sure to get in these smaller little grooves here is very important. One little area that I actually like to note specifically is kind of right here at the base of the charging handle. This little area can get pretty dirty. Normally notice a lot of buildup in this area when I'm been shooting the weapon suppressed. I haven't really been shooting this one suppressed too much, so there's not that much there, but something to take note of for sure. Kind of flipping it around, like to get into these nooks and crannies where the bolt sits, and then where the recoil spring assembly sits back here in this little hole as well. So I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to go ahead and set that bolt carrier aside. Going to grab our recoil spring, clean our recoil spring assembly. All we're going to do is go over this spring with a Q-tip here, just kind of get some of that overt grime off. If you want to get real crazy, you can clean every single one of these little nooks and crannies. But in my opinion, the recoil spring assembly doesn't really get too dirty. So just a quick little wipe down or spray down would be very beneficial. All right, pretty happy with that. Going to go ahead and set that aside. Next, we'll grab our gas tube here and just do a quick little wipe down of the kind of attachment sites here of the gas tube. Now, these gas tubes get incredibly dirty. Obviously, when we're firing the weapon, the gas is going through the gas tube, and you just get a ton of grime buildup and gunshot residue in these. I'm not gonna lie, I've sat here and cleaned these for like an hour or so at a time and still like kept getting debris out of there. So I just like to give these a quick wipe down and kind of just accept that they're kind of dirty. Now, if you want to get real crazy, you could start taking barrel brushes into these and trying to clean them out as much as you can. But in my opinion, I'm just going to shoot this till it grimes up and then buy another one for like $10. And obviously, like I said earlier, you know, this one's a 1970s parts kit build, and it's still functioning flawlessly, even with quite a bit of buildup in this gas tube. So I'm not really too worried about it, to be honest. Now, this is not me going back on my earlier statement saying you don't need to clean your AKs, because you absolutely do. But just this piece specifically has been the bane of my existence. So I just kind of give her my best go, call it a day, and get on with my life. I mean, as you can see, we're just pulling out like grimy Q-tip after grimy Q-tip. All right, so I'm happy with that gas tube. Last piece we got is just this dust cover. Dust cover usually doesn't get too dirty, but I do like to clean this little lip real good right here so it fits in nice with the receiver and I'm not running into any grime issues up there. But just going through and wiping down the undersurface, most importantly, to get some of that grime out of there. So now that we kind of have all of our small pieces done here, we're going to go ahead and grab the rest of the gun, and we're actually going to start at the muzzle and muzzle device and clean out this barrel. We're going to go ahead and take off this muzzle device here right quick. So we pop off this muzzle device here. And first thing I'm going to do is just clean off these threads. To me, cleaning the threads is very important because I will host these weapons with suppressors. So I want to make sure the threads aren't getting damage of the weapon and the threads aren't getting damage of the suppressor. So just grabbing a rag, cleaning those off right quick, and then going around and making sure there's no little dirt grime pieces on these threads is very important. I also do usually like to grab our muzzle device and wipe around inside. So these threads are nice and clean as well. Go ahead and set that muzzle device aside. So obviously we are going to clean the receiver, but at this point, it's actually very important to clean the barrel first. If you clean the receiver and then you start running things through the barrel, you're actually kind of like pushing all that shit back into the receiver that you just cleaned, and you don't want to do that. So at this point, we are going to go ahead and get out our barrel brushes. So please don't go out and spend a bunch of money on an awesome gun cleaning kit. I got this kit from Walmart for literally $10. As you can see, it's old as dirt, and it comes with like 8 billion brushes and cleaner and lubricant. It comes with absolutely everything you could possibly need. And like I said, it was only like $10. We got our 30 caliber wire brush attached, and all we're going to do is run this in and out of the barrel a good handful of times. And all this is doing is just kind of breaking up all of that gunpowder residue grime in the rifling of the barrel, which is important to make sure we have an accurate and functioning weapon. So once we've done that a handful of times, what we do is we go ahead and switch out this wire brush for one of these cloth brushes here. You can dump some gun cleaner here at the base of the barrel and just kind of pour it down out the front. But what I usually like to do is just take a little bit of that gun cleaner, put it on a cloth brush, and run it through the barrel a couple of times. So we'll just run this through. And I may repeat that step 1 or 2 times, just depending on how dirty this barrel is. So working our way back towards the receiver of the gun, I do usually like to grab a Q-tip with some gun cleaner on it and go ahead and try and get this where the gas tube sits, just to clean it out ever so slightly. Same thing with this area where the gas tube sits as well, just to make sure there isn't anything super built up and crazy. Now next, all we got to do is clean out these little pieces, nooks, crannies, grooves in the receiver. I do like to pay special attention to the base of the barrel here because that can grime up and cause you some feeding issues if you're not careful. Just to make sure we're getting in all these little grooves where the bolt and bolt carrier ride so that doesn't jam up on you. Going ahead and getting that trigger and hammer a little bit cleaner as well is also important. And I usually do like to flip the receiver over and try and hit some of these grooves from the undersurface as well, just to make sure we're getting all that grime out of there. All right, I'm pretty happy with that. So now all we got to do is reassemble our AK. I'm going to go ahead and start at the muzzle, put this muzzle device back on. Remember, it's an AK, so it's actually going to be lefty-tighty here. Go ahead and make sure we're pressing that detent pin all the way in so we can get this muzzle device down all the way. Make sure all those threads are nice and protected. Beautiful. We'll go ahead and put our gas tube back here. Just slide this in the front. This should slide down. And we just grab this tab and pull it back down so it sets in that groove. Gas tube's on. Nice. Going to go ahead and grab our bolt carrier and bolt. Going to go ahead and put our bolt back in our bolt carrier. Rotate that bolt in clockwise so that it sits in the correct orientation in the bolt carrier group. Go ahead and put that piston in. Push down. Should slam forward just like that. recoil spring assembly, push that into bolt carrier, set that in this little groove in the back. Ew, we got a girl hair on it. Gross. Grab our dust cover, put our dust cover back on. Again, weapon's clear. We're going to go ahead and put our mag back in. Function check. Functioning great. And there we have it, boys. We got our fully disassembled, cleaned, and reassembled AK or AK variant. Really appreciate you guys tuning into the channel. If there's ever anything you want to see, maintenance, function, firearm related, drop a comment down below. Let me know. I'd be happy to show it to you. Appreciate you tuning in, and please hit me with subscribe if you can.